Ladies and gents, today is the day. It's finally happening. We are getting the reviews for Ghost of Tsushima in just a few more hours, and I think that by 7 AM Pacific we should see the embargo lifted and all of the reviews starting pouring, and of course a ton of brand new gameplay footage that I'm sure many of the reviewers out there are going to post. But in the meantime, I kind of want to switch things up a little bit and bring my own predictions of how I believe these reviews are going to fare. Of course, after seeing quite a lot of gameplay footage, both from a lot of the stuff that you guys have sent me, as well as some of the leaks that have happened, well, in the past few days basically. But if you haven't seen them already, go ahead, check out sites like NeoGAF or Resetera, as there's a ton of it in there as well. But let's jump right into it with all of the news roundup, and as always, a thumbs up on this video would definitely be super awesome. Anyway, expect for the review scores to range quite a bit. It's not going to be a wild swing like how it was with The Last of Us Part 2, but there are a few people that are really critical about the game, so I'm kind of seeing two sides of it. There's people who are genuinely very excited about a samurai game in an open world setting that is done right, but there's also people out there that were quite critical about the fact that Sucker Punch hasn't innovated too much with this game. For example, some reviewers from China have already scored the game about 8 out of 10 at the maximum, with a couple of them giving a few points lower than that, so about high 70s out of 100, but it's still not too shabby. If I were to give my predictions, I think that it's going to land somewhere between 8 to 8.5, with a few reviewers out there giving it a really surprising score. I definitely am expecting something like that. Now, personally, I'm in the crowd that believes that not every game needs to innovate, especially when usually when companies force it, it kind of ends up blowing up in their face and they just end up being ridiculed for it. And honestly, I would much rather have a game that is just well made, gives you enough entertainment, a compelling story, good combat, and good exploration for the money that you're spending. And from what I'm seeing, Ghost of Tsushima kinda strikes on all of these points, with a few problems here and there that I will also mention later in this video. So starting with the strong points, I think that a huge chunk of the reviews are going to put a big emphasis on the beautiful open world. What we've seen up until now doesn't really make it justice, because there's so many very beautiful, lush environments out there and so much diversity when it comes to color and setting. And this is basically Sucker Punch's own design decision. They kind of sacrificed a bit of that realism for a more stylized look of what they believe to be a reinterpretation of the old samurai cinema in, of course, a game media format. And I think that this visual that they have settled on does make it justice. I think that the game looks absolutely beautiful, and I don't really mind sacrificing a bit of realism when we have shots like these. Now, on the side of the story, again, I'm also seeing some mixed reception. Some of the people are saying that the story feels a bit generic, while others are saying that, at least when talking about the side missions, or should I say the tales in this game, that they actually get really close to The Witcher 3 quality, which honestly sounds quite exciting. I've seen quite a diverse set of side missions at the very least, haven't paid too much attention to the main story when it came to leaks. I'm not really sure if there's even like main story leaks too much, but otherwise quite a varied range of these. You can go in and like help somebody that might be roughed up by a bunch of patrolling like Mongols, or maybe there's somebody who might provide some sort of military help to Mongols and you have to prevent that and get them on your side. But there's others in there as well that I'm not really sure how much I can talk about. But otherwise, this also brings me to their rewards, and I think that this is going to be the thing that's going to be most praised, because many of these like side missions and tales, even from the main story, provide a ton of rewards, like especially when it comes to new attire, like new armors. It also provides new weapons and functionalities. I'm pretty sure that at least the bow, you get it from one of the tales in the game, but there's also armor sets that you get from specific missions that you will be doing. And yeah, this just brings us to that RPG system I was talking about. Quite a diverse set of RPG systems that make up the game over here. When it comes to character customization, there is like a really wild range of armors that you can get, and of course color yourself. If you want to go like a full black stealth ninja, you can do that. If you want to be a Ronin with some really heavy armor, like bulky shoulders, really big headpiece, there's also an option for that as well. And also, let's not forget about like the headpieces, a ton of masks, and a ton of very crazy hats, like the one that we saw in 2017. Kind of looks like a basket. That already looked quite hilarious, but there's one that's even bigger than that kind of covers your entire head. It looks just hilarious. If you want to play and roleplay like Samurai Jack, I'm pretty sure that there are enough options to customize and recreate a samurai Samurai Jack in Ghost of Tsushima. Now, another very important topic was of course the combat. Does the combat feel satisfying? I think that from most of the gameplay footage that we've seen, even like the official ones, it looks quite satisfying to say the least. There's a nice selection of skills you can invest points into that will sharpen your, let's just say, abilities. Like a lot of stuff that you can invest points into both for the Ghost and Assassin gameplay, and there's also some, let's just say, mythic skills on top, but I'm gonna leave that for after the video comes out with like the reviews and all of that. Otherwise, I think that the biggest complaint about the combat was just the death animation of enemies. I think that, of course, we already had the one with like the bows kind of doing a really awkward death animation for enemies when they were hit by arrows, but there was another one when enemies would die by sword. They kept having the same animation all the time. Though I will say this, yes, it kind of happens when they die under a specific scenario. They kind of always have the same animation, which kind of feels like it's a design choice because they die in a very exaggerated samurai slash action movie like. You know, those really over the top scenes where the enemy kind of stands a bit on their feet after being defeated, then falls onto their knees and then face plant into the ground, and they just die in a very exaggerated manner. But it plays a bit too often, but enemies have other death animations as well, and obviously you can also chop off their limbs, but that I think only works with special attacks. Otherwise, very cool side quests is what I'm hearing. I think that most people agree that the side content is quite nice, and some of the stories or tales are quite interesting and quite compelling. Not really sure if it's like Oscar level or whatever. I'm not sure if the game is going to get a Game of the Year. I've already expressed my opinion on this, and it is my personal Game of the Year just because it does things right from what I'm seeing so far. Anyway, on a final note, I think that the final complaint that I have seen is about the somewhat empty open world in some of the shots. I think that even the state of play kind of showed a little bit of that as well. But again, I think that a huge emphasis on this is also the world, in the sense that how it looks and how the vegetation moves, and not like always being filled with enemies. Like it would also not feel realistic if at literally every pace there would be an enemy hiding in the bushes. So they should be either on patrols or either in their respective, let's just say, outposts where you go in and take them out. But yeah, you can find them out in the world as well. Maybe you find a random encounter with some Mongols jumping on a person or whatever, and you have to save them. But yeah, generally speaking, these are some of the complaints that I think people are going to mostly have. But outside of these, I think that the game is going to fare generally quite well. It's going to be well received. But you know what? With just a few more hours, we're gonna find out more about that in just a little bit. As always, if you want to stay up to date with that, make sure you subscribe to this channel, activate that notification bell, and also consider following me on Twitter, since I'm quite active over there as well and always talking with you guys. There's a lot of you guys that DM me and we talk about the game, share leaks and whatnot, even though that's kind of against the rules, but you know what, it is what it is. It's already the 14th, so we don't really care. Thank you so much for watching though, and I will see you guys next time.